Hello, hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Career Dive podcast. We are back. I'm back home in Toronto. We're back from Colombia from my remote winter trip that I do with my partner, now fiance, I guess. It's still kind of strange to start using this word, but yes, we did get engaged in Colombia. So we're very, very happy and excited for what's next ahead of us. And on a side note, actually, I was thinking that maybe we will record, and by we, I mean I will record an episode where I share a little bit about just my journey. And I know some of you have been asking me on Instagram how we met and more details about the proposal and where's the wedding and when is the wedding. So I actually thought that maybe we'll record, maybe that will be our next episode where we'll get a little bit personal and I can share my journey towards this amazing relationship that I'm in. And when I'm reflecting on it, I didn't actually prioritize relationship and personal relationships in my 20s. And it was only in my 30s where I really made it my priority. And that's when I was able to build this relationship. So I am thinking about it. If it is something that you like to tune into, let me know. Send me a message on Instagram. But today's episode was actually inspired by you guys. And this is a question that I get often from you, and that is dealing with rejection and what to do when you do get rejected. So maybe you applied for an opportunity and you got rejected, or you are interviewing for an opportunity. So you're a lot further in the process and you get rejected. So how do you handle it? How not to take it personally, how to handle your emotions, but also how to turn this rejection into an opportunity. That's right. This is something that my clients and myself talk about a lot in coaching. So inside my job search coaching program, the Star Candidate, we talk about it quite often. So how to turn rejections into opportunities, whether it's a short-term opportunity, so something you can pursue in the next few weeks or months, or maybe it is something that you explore and continue to build this relationship and turn into an opportunity a year from now, a few years from now. So I thought, let's do a full episode on rejection. So today we'll talk about why rejection even happens and how oftentimes it's actually not about you. So I do want for you to have a little bit of understanding of what actually goes on behind the scenes so that you are not too hard on yourself every single time you get rejected. And I'll share a very powerful, actionable follow-up strategy to turn your rejection into something else and to keep the doors open, and again, to potentially turn it into an opportunity. I'll also get pretty personal in this episode, and I'll also share some of my examples of when I got rejected. So let's dive into this episode. So first, let's normalize rejection. That's right. I feel like most of us see what we see on social media, what we see on LinkedIn, on Instagram, is really the highlight reel. And we see all these updates from your past coworkers or from your friends. Hey, I just got promoted. I just got a new job. And it feels like we don't actually see their journey towards that role, but it feels like everyone is doing it with ease. No one is really struggling the way maybe you have been struggling. And that's simply because you just don't see it. Trust me when I say this. I have coached hundreds of extremely accomplished, successful professionals working for some of the biggest companies in the world. And when they are starting job searching, and a lot of them are very senior, they are at senior manager level, director level, even VP level. And when they are job searching, they realize, oh, wait, it does come with rejection. Despite the fact that I am so senior, despite the fact that I do have all of these achievements on my resume, all of these big brands on my resume, it still comes with rejection. So I always want for you to remind yourself that it's not you. It's not your skills or experience that are the problem. Rejection is part of the process. So just keep reminding yourself that you're not worse than your friends and coworkers that you see on LinkedIn. It's just you see a very, very small part of their journey being highlighted. All of them are experiencing rejection on their journey. In fact, I want for you to think about it this way. You are probably not taking every single opportunity that ever comes your way. You probably are assessing those opportunities. Ideally, you are assessing those opportunities and looking at, hey, is this the right fit for me right now? Oh, wait, this is too far of a commute. I don't think this is the right fit. Oh, this is not paying me what I deserve. Oh, this opportunity doesn't have the same benefits and maybe maternity benefits that I'm looking for. So I'm going to say no to it. Oh, at this company, I can't really grow anymore. Or you have left roles before. So you rejected essentially your existing employer that you have established a relationship with. So you do that as well. You just don't necessarily think about it as a rejection for the employer. So I want for you to always think through this process as we are both, so the employer and the job seekers, we are looking for a mutual fit. We are looking for the right time, the right budget, the right opportunity, and we're looking for that right match. So it's not about you. It's not just about your skills. It's about budgets. It's about timing. It's about internal politics. That's what I always want for you to keep in mind. Rejection doesn't mean that you're not a good fit. It just means that you're not the right fit right now for this opportunity. And the way I want for you to start thinking about rejection, and I know it hurts, it stings in the moment. It absolutely does. We're all human, and we'll talk next about how to actually handle that feeling. So I want for you to start reframing I got rejected to, I gathered data on this company's hiring process, on this company's projects, clients, goals, challenges, on the team, the manager, the management. You're gathering data. You're also gathering data on you and your own performance and how you show up, how you talk about your experience and yourself and what's next for you. So if you think, let's say, of some of the biggest discoveries in the world, when a scientist is working towards that discovery, they run many, many hundreds, thousands of tests and experiments to gather data to really come to that big conclusion, to come to that big discovery. And they know that to come to that big discovery, they do need to fail. And the more times they fail, the more data they have to actually have the right fit, the right conclusion, the right discovery. So I think as a society in general, we need to start reframing failure and not being too hard on ourselves, which I know is very hard. I'm quite hard on myself, but really reminding yourself that I didn't fail. I just got data. And that is my inevitable step towards success. And another thing here that I want to remind you is that there are so many reasons that are outside of your control for why you got rejected. Yes, it is absolutely important how you show up, how you talk about yourself, how you frame your experience, how you connect the dots. And by the way, I have a couple of episodes planned out for you on job interviews in the next few weeks. So we'll be diving into presenting yourself in interviews. But outside of what you can control, there are factors that you just don't see. Many times when I was hiring for some of the top employers in the country, many times it's an urgent role. We're all, we're all running around trying to find the right fit and setting the interviews very quickly. But then something changes. Maybe the project changes, maybe the budget changes, and they decide not to hire. The hiring manager decides not to hire, or they put the project or the hiring on pause, sometimes for a month. Sometimes there is really no timeline for when they're going to reopen it. So I've seen that happen many times. And honestly, it's very frustrating for the internal team as well, because the internal team has also spent time and resources trying to fix this problem for the hiring manager. Sometimes it actually often happens when it's a big organization. They find someone internally who either becomes available, so maybe they finish a project that they were working on, or the company realizes that they're ready to maybe move up or transition. So again, Ideally, that happens before they ever post the role and they start interviewing other people. But we don't live in an ideal world, so it happens. And another piece that I want for you to keep in mind that, again, I've seen many times is oftentimes the hiring manager and the team and the company love you. They do love you. They do want to hire you, but maybe you don't have the experience with a specific software or technology or client that they really, really need for you to have. And they know for a fact that you will be successful in this role, that you will learn this. And maybe you have transferable skills. That's why they know you will be successful. However, on the background, what's happening is they're looking at their resources and they're realizing we don't really have the manpower for someone to train you to come up to speed. We really need for someone to come in and hit the ground running yesterday. Or maybe they're realizing, listen, we should have hired someone 6 months ago and now we're so behind. Again, we just don't have time for you to get up to speed. We really need someone who maybe has done this exact role with the competitor and can just come in and they're ready to go. So again, it's not really about you and them not seeing the value in you, but rather them looking for a slightly different fit. So again, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of this kind of first section is it needs to be the right fit. All right. Next, I want to talk about how to handle rejection in the moment. Now, it is, of course, extremely frustrating and sometimes even heartbreaking to get rejected, especially if you are far into the process. I've talked about it before. In the beginning of my career, my dream was to work for Deloitte, to work in consulting, and I worked really hard to meet people on the inside, build advocates, having people advocate for me to get interviewed, to get hired. I worked really, really hard on my interview skills, both behavioral interview and case interview. And I felt like I was ready and I was there and it was so close. It was 4 rounds of interviews. Last round is with the partner and I didn't get the offer. And because I worked so hard for over a year to get to that point, it was heartbreaking and I did cry and it still stings. It has been a decade and it still stings that didn't work out for me, even though I felt like I did everything that I could. And on top of that, my internal advocates have been helping me through the process and we were debriefing the interview after. They were giving me internal feedback. So I really knew where I stood. And throughout this process, they kept telling me that I was their number one choice and they were very, very impressed with me. But again, I didn't get the offer. So it stings. And it doesn't matter whether you're 20 years old, 40 years old, whether you're just starting your career or it has been decades. It still hurts. But here's what I tell my clients around how to process it in the moment and what to do in the days that follow. So I am of the belief, and you guys know that I'm big on choosing positive thoughts and really being conscious of the thoughts that you're thinking and reframing them, looking for proof that the opposite is true, and really having those tools to bring yourself back to I am a superstar. This is going to be great. And those are the tools that my clients and I work on inside the Start Canada program so that you always can be your best version of yourself. However, when you fail at something, those emotions are very strong. And I'm of the belief that in that moment, it's actually really hard to just think through that when emotions are so high. So here's what I want for you to do. And I want for you to grieve, whatever that looks like. I want for you to really let those emotions out, whatever that feels like, whether it's anger, whether you're upset, whether you're angry, whether you're crying, whether you're going to a gym and having a really, tough workout, whether you're sitting on the couch crying, eating ice cream and watching a rom-com, whether you're just ignoring it and diving into work and just not thinking about it, whatever the process looks like for you, experiencing those emotions and letting them out, I want for you to do that and scream, cry, let it out. But I want for you to set a deadline for yourself. So let's say you get rejected on Wednesday and you're really starting to spiral. The rest of the week is out. Experience those emotions. But again, set a deadline. Let's say Friday. Friday night is my timeline for how long I'm going to let myself really live through these emotions and experience them the way I need to. But come Friday night, I'm done. That's my deadline. I'm going to be as silly, as ridiculous as I want right now. But come Friday night, we're done. That's my deadline. From there on, I'm moving on and I'm actually starting to work through this. I'm starting to think through my next steps. I'm starting to try to convert this into an opportunity, which is something that we'll talk about next. I'm starting to use those tools again where I am getting conscious of my thoughts. I'm choosing thoughts that are helpful for me. I'm reframing my thoughts. I'm looking for proof that those new thoughts are true. So I'm really moving forward. But you have to set a deadline and you have to quite literally decide that starting from that point, we're moving forward. So this approach really allows you to honor your emotions without getting stuck in them and without being in those emotions for a week, for a month, for a quarter, and really grieving this lost opportunity, which we've discussed earlier is not really about you. It just wasn't the right fit at the time. All right. So next, let's talk about what to do when you get rejected and how you can turn this rejection into an opportunity. So what most people do is, let's say they apply for an opportunity, they get an auto rejection email, and that's just kind of it. Or you, let's say, interview for an opportunity, you get rejected, which again hits typically a lot harder. But then most of the time, you don't even respond to that email. You just get angry, like, oh, okay, well, if you don't want me, fine. Or maybe you say, hey, thank you for the opportunity. Maybe you even ask for feedback. Oftentimes, I know you don't hear back and don't get any feedback. And that's kind of it. So I believe that that is a missed opportunity. So we're going to break it down into one, what to do if you applied and got rejected. And we're going to break it down into a second scenario where you have been interviewing already. So let's start with the second scenario where you have been interviewing already. So because they have been interviewing you, especially if you have made it past the first round, they very much see the value in you. They know what you bring to the table. They actually do believe that you can do the job. It's just, again, wasn't the right fit. So what I want for you to think about here next is maintaining the relationship. So whether it's people that you have talked to already, so the recruiter, maybe the hiring manager, maybe you had an interview scheduled, let's say your final round with someone really senior, and that got canceled because you got rejected. So that person you haven't talked to yet. So the idea here is you're already 1 foot in the door. So I want for you to now start establishing that connection and that relationship. So if you've already talked to those people, we'll talk about what to do and how to follow up with them. And if you haven't talked to someone who was, let's say, the final round, you still should try to talk to them. So I like to follow up and I like to send a message where I tell them that sounds like it wasn't the right fit at the moment. And I like to tell them things that I really liked about either the opportunity or the team or the company. So showing that this is something that caught my eye, it is something that I would potentially want to continue exploring further. And then, so let's say it is someone senior who was the final round and you didn't get to talk to them. I would still reach out to them with that message and then say, we didn't get a chance to connect, but I would still love for us to meet for a 5-10 minute conversation. And I would love to understand your key priorities for the next 6 to 12 months and see if there is a way we can collaborate in the future. So think about it as you positioning yourself as the solution for them. Sure, right now it wasn't a good fit. that's totally fine. But what are you thinking about next? What are your goals and priorities moving forward so that maybe I can be the solution for that in the future? So that is with someone who, say, is senior that you haven't talked to yet. I would still try to reach out and book this short conversation with them. If it is someone you've talked to already, so let's say a recruiter, a hiring manager, so that was part of the interview process and you felt like, hey, I actually did really well, I would still try to have the same approach. It is entirely possible that they won't say yes to that conversation. However, this works quite well if maybe this was an interview 6 months ago or a couple of years ago. You've interviewed for an opportunity and that didn't work out. So now that you started to establish this relationship, it can always be someone that you go back to have this conversation. Hey, we've connected last year when you were exploring bringing someone in for the ABC type of role. That was not the right fit at the time. But the ABC company is still something that is top of mind for me for XYZ reason. Let's connect. Would love to understand your goals for the next 6 to 12 months and whether we can collaborate and work together to help you achieve those goals. So that is very powerful going back to some of the interviews you've had in the past. But you can also use this same messaging right after you got rejected. And again, you're not just asking for feedback. And this conversation that you book as a follow-up conversation is a chance for you to ask for feedback. But if the hiring manager saw that potential in you and they really liked you, they would want to talk to you to see, okay, let's continue this conversation so that in the future, when I'm looking to hire, I can bring you in. Because and I can't stress this enough, that's how a smart recruiter, a smart hiring manager thinks. They're always thinking, okay, who is in my pipeline for the future when I'm looking to hire next? Because I don't want to scramble. I already want to have great candidates. In fact, I have a couple of examples of my clients in the Start Canada program that do this very, very well. We have Karen. She's done this multiple times when she interviews for an opportunity. It's a big organization. She goes through multiple rounds. It's not the right fit. A couple of times it was a little bit of a senior role for her. And she gets introduced to another team, another hiring manager, and she continues to interview for now another opportunity. Similar, a client that I had in the Start Canada program a couple of years ago, Royal, she was interviewing for LinkedIn. She went pretty far with the process, didn't get an offer because, again, it just wasn't the right fit. But she got introduced to another hiring manager at LinkedIn, and she has been with LinkedIn, I believe, for the last maybe 3 years now already. So this actually does happen quite often. And yes, sometimes the hiring manager or the recruiter would suggest, hey, you should actually explore this other opportunity with us. But oftentimes you need to take control and you need to ask for those next steps and those introductions and what else is possible. So I want for you to think about it as a relationship. You want to establish this relationship, which you already have done through this first interview round. Keep it alive, keep it growing so that even if it's not today, maybe it's 4 months from now or a year from now that you can get into this team and this organization. Now, let's spend a couple of minutes on the scenario where you have applied for a role and you got an auto rejection. So this is trickier because you're not in yet. But again, my clients have gotten interviews after they have been automatically rejected. However, in order for you to do that, you need advocates on the inside. You need people internally look at you and say, yeah, let's connect. Let's have this conversation. This can be a potential fit. And it's not a recruiter who's going to do that for you. It's not someone who's really far removed. It's either, and by far removed, I mean removed from the hiring process, from making this decision from the hiring manager, but it needs to be either the hiring manager or someone the hiring manager reports to, or someone kind of at the same level as the hiring manager on the same team who can, again, influence that process. So what my clients do is first, before they apply, this is what we talk about a lot. Hey, you see an opportunity posted, your first instinct is, who can I reach out to? who can help me get an introduction to the hiring manager. If the hiring manager responds directly, great, but your time here is limited. So who can, outside of the hiring manager, who can help me get that introduction to the hiring manager? Can I reach out to everyone that I can find on the team to get to talk to someone to get that connection? So Christina, for example, who is in the Start Canada program, applied for an opportunity. Again, similar, went broad, reached out to as many people as she could on the team, did get connected to the hiring manager, got an automatic rejection. But because she had a conversation booked with the hiring manager for the next day after she got the rejection, despite the fact that she got rejected by the system, the recruiter, she still got the interview. So, my friend, I know when you get rejected, it hurts, it stings, you have emotions running, process them, get angry, cry, get upset, process those emotions. But also start thinking, I'm already talking to someone here. I'm already connected to someone here. Can I turn this into something? Can I turn this into a connection, a relationship that I can turn into an opportunity in the future? And the final piece that I want to share with you in this episode, I know you've heard this before, but let me remind you that rejection is redirection. I want for you to actually right now think of an example in your life where you got rejected, whether it was for a job, whether someone broke up with you, and what came out of it. I bet it was a better relationship, a better opportunity. And you're looking back and you're thinking, you know what? I'm glad that didn't work out because it wasn't the right fit. It wasn't a mutual fit in the moment. I'll share my own story. Another rejection that hit me really hard was, you guys know that I went on this journey of trying to discover what was the right next step for me after I've worked in the accounting world for a number of years, and I've narrowed it down to design world. And I was looking specifically at interior design, and I designed this job description for me where I am working in the design world, but I also in the corporate world, and I am on the client facing side. So I didn't want to be a designer myself, and I also really liked working with executives and really kind of senior people. So that was really the job description that I designed for myself. And I found this opportunity with Herman Miller. If you know Herman Miller chairs, you know Herman Miller. So it's probably the top company to work for in the design industry. And I thought it was the perfect role for me. And I got the interview by reaching out to the hiring manager on LinkedIn, and he loved my profile. He loved my proactive approach. I connected with him for an interview. That went really well. So I was like, I'm getting this opportunity. And it was my first 6-figure job interview. I was like, okay, I'm going to get this big pay increase. This is going to be amazing. And again, it was a combination of design and sales and kind of the design industry. The function was sales, and I was going to be working with the decision makers at these big corporations. So everything that I wanted was within this one role. And I didn't do well in my last round, which was a panel with all the senior executives at the company here in their Toronto office. And again, I remember I was crying, walking out of that interview, walking downtown Toronto, and I was just bawling because I wanted that opportunity so badly. Because again, it was something that I really imagined for myself. I finally discovered that this role does exist. It was the right brand. Everything just came together. And they told me that, you know what, like we actually really, really all like you. You're just not ready for this level of role. You're not ready for the seniority of this role. And I was so frustrated because I'm like, I'm ready. I know I can do it. But again, looking back, I wasn't ready. The fact that I was spiraling so hard after the interview showed that I wasn't ready, because there was going to be difficult moments and difficult conversations when working with executives, for example. I just wasn't ready to have those tough conversations. And they actually really pushed me in the interview. And again, I kind of crumbled during the interview. So again, I wasn't ready. But here's an interesting part. What came out of that opportunity not working out was me actually going into recruitment. And recruitment actually was a much better fit for me. And again, at that point, I was in the industry in consumer goods, consumer products, working with beautiful design products already. You guys know the story where I was selling to Nordstrom, I was selling to Anthropologie. I was just looking for the right role. And I thought Herman Miller was that next role for me. It didn't work out, but what ended up working out is me actually then transitioning to recruitment sales. And as you probably know my story, I actually thrived in it. And it was really, truly the right career for me. So this is just a reminder that in the moment, it stings, it hurts. But again, it just wasn't the right fit. And when it is the right fit, it just flows seamlessly and perfectly. And looking back, you always feel like, you know what? It's a good thing it didn't work out in that moment. All right, my friends, this is it for today's episode on rejection. So we talked about how rejection is a data point. We talked about how rejection is redirection. And we talked about how to process rejection, how to process your emotions in the moment. And we also talked about how to turn this rejection into something else, how to turn it into a relationship, and how to even turn it into an opportunity by coming in as a solution to their long-term objectives. That's it for today. I will see you in the next episode.